What would it take to convince you that the Earth is not a spinning globe? Do you think you could ever be convinced otherwise? Or are you so confident in this cosmology that nothing could change your mind? One of the main differences that pits flat earthers in stark contrast to globe believers is the fact that flat earthers have shown the capacity to consider new information with an open mind, and if necessary, admit that they were wrong. 99% of all modern-day flat earthers were once globe believers themselves, and were subjected to the same mainstream media and public school indoctrination as everyone else. So what allows some to see past their confirmation bias and hinders others from ever even opening their minds to the possibility? There is one key characteristic, one personality trait that is particularly noticeable in flat earthers that is rarely seen in globe defenders. The more you pay attention to people on both sides of the issue, the more blatantly clear it becomes with time. This most obvious difference between those who accept and reject the flat earth is humility. I can already hear the audible groans and see their eye globes rolling back in their sockets, but it's true. The main reason most people reject flat earth is because they lack the humbleness to accept that they might be wrong and cannot temper their egos long enough to truly listen to and fully consider the opposing side. Deep down, they don't want to admit that they may have been duped, and so will continue to double and triple down on debunked explanations rather than opening their minds to new possibilities. Over the past decade, I have spoken with thousands of detractors and watched hundreds of hours of globe apologists making reaction videos to my 200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball and other presentations. And the main behavior on display, consistently, without fail, is a smug, snarky, sarcastic, superior, holier-than-thou, arrogant attitude. Globe apologists tend to be so sure of their position that they rarely allow an entire sentence to be spoken before interrupting to regurgitate the explanations taught in their third-grade science textbooks. The irony is that myself and other flat earthers are well aware of these explanations and can recite them too. The difference is that we are skeptical and open-minded enough to carefully consider alternative explanations before immediately jumping to such foregone conclusions. Think back to when you were a child first learning all of this. What did it actually take for you to believe in it back then? If you are truly honest with yourself, you first believed it because you were a young child, too naive to know any better, and your parents, teachers, and every other adult around you accepted it as fact. In other words, our initial acceptance of heliocentric cosmology is more the result of argument from authority than from actual sound reasoning. Granted, we are given a few supposed proofs of the globe and told that flat Earth was a mistaken belief of our ignorant ancestors. But the main method of indoctrination is through simple omission. Students are only ever educated about one perspective, one possibility, and told it is the gospel truth. Through centuries of censorship, a wealth of information available on geocentrism and the flat Earth has been systematically silenced and hidden from academia. Myself and other modern flat earthers, with the help of the internet, have recently brought dozens of incredible books long out of print back into the hands of young minds. The fact of the matter is that if students were given equal school time to study geocentric material as they are heliocentric, the globe would quickly lose its popularity and no longer enjoy its reign as an uncontested consensus cosmology. I have personally been diligently studying geocentrism and the flat Earth for nearly 15 years now. I have read over 100 books and thousands of old newspaper and magazine articles on the subject. I have performed my own experiments and demonstrations to learn from personal experience, and have spoken to thousands of people from all walks of life on the matter. Meanwhile, how many globe believers can say the same? How many of these adamant globe defenders have actually read an entire flat Earth book? How many have read 10? They will usually claim to have done their due diligence in researching flat Earth before rejecting it, but the reality is that none of them have really delved deep or done so with an open mind. You must approach the subject without any bias or preconceived notions, and with the fresh eyes of a child, just like when you first learned the heliocentric globe model. It isn't easy to overcome a lifetime of propaganda. You must honestly humble yourself to the possibility that you have been fooled, and everything you were taught was a lie. Otherwise, even when you look, you won't see. When you listen, you won't hear. When you read, you won't comprehend. And when you think, you won't ponder. If you cannot first empty your cup, then it is impossible to refill it with pure water. If you cannot first unlearn what you were originally taught, then it is impossible to learn anything new contrary to it. If you cannot first clear your mind of heliocentric indoctrination, you will lack the discernment necessary to recognize the geocentric truth. You have been systematically fed a complex web of lies designed to make you reject your own common sense and lived experience of the world. You have been taught that this notion of flat Earth is something so ridiculous that it should only be laughed at, and that anyone advocating for it must be utterly unintelligent or completely crazy. So your immediate and confident rejection of the notion is no different than your leg extending when hit with a reflex hammer. Your exasperated eye rolls and permanent smirks were programmed into you, as was the list of questions that instantly roll off your tongue, like, "But why would they lie? What does it matter? And where are the whistleblowers?" All of these, and even more specific questions, like, "Why is Earth the only flat planet? Why isn't Polaris visible from Australia? And how does the Eratosthenes experiment work on a flat Earth?" All have valid, sound answers from a geocentric perspective. If you haven't already, please do me, yourself, and the world a favor by reading or watching my free full video presentation of my latest book, Flat Earth FAQ, and see for yourself.